I said,
Is
I
that
have no idea
unsalted?
why I said, let me get this last sip of coffee. Like I can't drink while we're doing the podcast.
You're
Um,
in Virginia. Wow.
yeah, I am in Roanoke, Virginia, which is in the northwest part of Virginia, kind of close to West Virginia. This is where I'm with my dad. My dad is from Roanoke, Virginia. I'm staying in the
Right.
house that he grew up in. Oh yeah, I've been talking a lot about the past. So my mom moved out of the house that I was raised in after 43 years
Mm.
2 weeks ago. And so I was in the middle of the finishing the semester of school. Never really had the time to process
Mm.
what everything that was tied to the house, the
Yeah.
relationships of spaces, um, traumas, happy moment, all, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And
Yep.
that was, finally I got on the, I was talking about this on another podcast, but I don't mind saying it again. It didn't really hit me until the last 2 days of like moving her or watching the process of like exit.
Mm-mm. Mm.
And I might have shed a tear, but I really didn't start crying until I got on the plane leaving San Francisco.
Mm.
Thankfully there's no one in the middle seat. So whoever was on the other the person on the other side, I think they were knocked out. And like I had my mask on, but like it was just like flowing. It was
Oh.
flow. I was like, oh,
Yep.
yep, just let it go. I was like, yep,
Yeah.
yep, let it go, let it go.
Ooh.
So weird, yeah, but it's super weird to be in a place, like leave a place, but also have. I was talking to you about this hike that I had today. To get to the end, not even the end of the hike, but at a moment in the hike, to have this like weird kind of origin story moment
Of
because I'm
course.
because I'm in a place where my father is from and where his father is from. So it's like, oh my God, like, oh, so yeah, this, of course, this feels kind of good. It feels good because it's,
Mm.
I would argue, like part of me.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely part, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that made me go down a whole rabbit hole of like, okay, who inhabited this land before? Obviously, Virginia is like old. Virginia is an
Yeah.
old place, right? And just looking at the structure, I mean, actually, not even the structures, lack of structure, right? In terms of like buildings,
Mm.
highways,
Mm.
right? Like it's
Mm.
still, regardless of where we are, um, regardless of where we are in terms of like innovation and technology and all that stuff, but there's still places that are like, yeah, we're changing, but we're not going to change too much.
Yeah, you're not gonna.
and, and I also don't know how many people are like, you know what, I'm moving to Roanoke,
Mm-hmm.
and that's
Yeah.
what keeps these things like. I mean, it's beautiful though. Like I took pictures, I was like, this is gorgeous. Like this
Yeah.
is absolutely wonderful. But anyway, enough about me.
Wow. Wow. So home is a thing for you right now.
Yeah, home is a
Story and
huge
fam.
thing.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, very much in transition.
Ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Very much in transition. I'm moving to the Caribbean in about a month.
Wait, did you tell me that? Did this kind of sounds familiar, but
Okay,
no.
you're
No?
a star. You
Wait,
have too much on your plate,
did
man.
you tell me this?
I think
You
we
did tell me this.
did tell you that.
Oh my gosh. Wait, are you done at SF State?
I'll be done in May.
And then you're moving?
No, no, no. I'm finishing
Oh.
semester
Ooh.
in the Caribbean.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I was like, huh,
Okay.
let's figure out
Okay.
how to make the most out of this
Yes.
peculiar time.
Peculiar.
Peculiar. I don't know how else to say it.
Oh my God. Wait. Okay. Wait. I know you want to talk about me, but can we talk about this real quick? Where are you
Oh,
going?
we have nothing but time. We have nothing but time. We haven't done this in a long time. I haven't got to see my homegirl in a minute. See what transitions you're making
Tell me.
and
Oh, there's
transitioning, you know.
a plenty, a plenty.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. I know. If there's one thing I know when I come connect with you, I'm like, all right, where are we going? What are you
Ah,
um
but you're serving it right now. Where are you moving to?
Jamaica to start.
Yes.
Yeah, headed to Jamaica to start. Um, and I was originally going to go to the Dominican Republic. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I had to alter those plans because I went to go check the like the travel advisories and everything,
Mm-hmm.
and they're at like a level 4 out of 5 in terms of like not just COVID, but I think overall safety.
Yeah.
I think that, don't quote me on it, but I think the Dominican Republic has become more. Well, I don't know if it was. I can't say more or less, but I've had read a couple articles and I've had conversations with people where the Dominican Republic has like increased their popularity and like not even popularity. That's the wrong word. I think they've become a larger hub for drug
Yeah.
trafficking, right?
Sure. Of course.
And so I think when you shut down, and then on top of that, when you have a global economic shutdown and where you're an island and your
Yeah.
business is tourism and that goes out.
Yeah. All of that. All of that.
Right.
Yeah.
So altered my plans. I'm hoping to hit a couple islands while I'm there, and we'll see. But for sure, Jamaica's
Okay.
the spot to start.
And is this like you're like moving indefinitely
No,
or
no, no, no. Oh, you know what?
oh
Who knows?
well, who knows,
It's a one-way
right?
ticket. It's definitely a
Who
one-way ticket.
there we go.
But I don't think so. Not. I don't think so. I don't know if
Okay.
I'm ready for that just yet.
Sure. And
Uh,
when are you leaving?
there's some good stuff in the works here in the States.
Mm,
There's a lot of potential for the work that I'm doing,
mm.
and it feels good. Um, and I don't know if I'm ready for that jump yet. Even though I'm all about the jumps, I love a good jump.
You're gonna swim all day.
Oh, swim, surf. I'll be right.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'll be right where I need to be.
Yeah, exact.
I'll be
Yeah.
right where I need to be.
And when are you leaving?
February 1st.
Shoot.
Yeah,
In a month.
1 month. One.
I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, I know you
Yeah.
would be.
Like that feels so right.
It does, right?
That feels so right.
Yeah. There's a few things that have lined up. One, obviously, water. Right. Water is first and
Water.
first and
Yeah.
foremost. I'm like,
Yeah. For you all day. Yep.
all day long.
Uh-huh.
This social work graduate program um, has ran me through every thought possible,
Mm,
and going deeper and deeper into social justice and social work. Period. Where did social work originate? Where did it come from? What are
mm,
the where did these methodologies and theories come from?
mm.
And the more I get into it, the more I have to. If we're talking about the country, I think I'm drawn to the development of our economic system, right? And those populations that have been used to
Yeah.
grow that economic system. And I never really knew that much, and I still don't know that much about the Caribbean and the role it played in terms in the African slave trade and
Mm,
colonization, right? Like
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
over and over and over again. And it's one of those interesting things that I think on the West Coast, I don't know if we have a ton of interaction with folks like that. I mean, I don't think people really are as like aware
Yeah,
as people on the East Coast, because there's
totally.
just,
Proximity.
yeah, like
Yeah,
proximity all day.
yeah, yeah.
So I want to make this a learning experience as well, right?
Nice.
Um, and that part's important to me. But quite honestly, just get change of environment. And I don't know
Yeah.
when I'll be able to do this again.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Let's go.
yeah, like I don't know when
Go
I'm
ahead.
like something's pointing me in that direction. All right,
Yeah.
but enough about
Follow it.
me. I'm tired.
Follow it.
I'm tired of talking about me. I could have a podcast by myself. And no,
This is
you,
just a little catch up.
that was a
Little
little right.
little
I
catch up.
was like, wait, hold on 1 second. Before we do that, let's do catch up with me. But yeah, finishing up the finish up the program. What
Yeah.
5 months left. Going to the Caribbean, and that's where I'm at.
Bam.
Boom.
Boom. Bada bam.
So you're back home,
Currently, yeah, for the holidays.
and home is an interesting one for you because I feel like you have homes everywhere, and like so you know people everywhere, and wherever you go, people are gonna create a home for you.
Mm,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah.
See.
Yeah,
Yep.
that
You're like,
last part,
yeah.
that last part hit me. That last part hit me.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, this is where I grew up. This is the OG. This is the hometown. This is the home base. This is the what has become, I think, a sanctuary for me in a lot of respects.
Mm,
Just living the life that I do in the city, and
mm,
it's nice to be out of the city.
mm,
Ooh, which is
mm.
all day why I'm like, yes, Caribbean, go, go, go. Um, but yeah, I'm here in Carson, 310, LA County, Tongva Territory. And it's interesting because home has been a really big thing for me this year. I feel like I've totally like my relationship to home is just it's so different, and it's not to say that um it feels renewed, like there's a renewed um feeling I have about home, and whereas I think living in the Bay for the last decade,
Damn, it's been a
I
decade.
mean, it's been a decade. Yeah, it's kind of
Mm.
I feel like I was like subconsciously really looking forward to this because I mean, of course, looking forward to it, period.
Right,
But
right, right.
but I think I've been kind of like really trying to intentionally hibernate
Mm,
and just rest.
mhm.
And like I was just telling my older sister yesterday, I was like, chilling, like I don't know if we can use profanity here, but TF
Please.
is a practice for me.
Yeah.
Like it's a practice for me. Like
Mhm,
I'm pretty fidgety. I like to I love stimulation, intellectual or
mhm.
embodied, and to just kind of like sleep in and
Yeah.
not feel bad.
Mm,
It's it's a practice. Yeah, and it's interesting because I think whereas COVID and this time has separated a lot of families and forced more um, constrictions and constraints and boundaries, I think I've actually been able to come home more
yeah.
than I would than I have in the last decade.
Yeah.
So, of course, safety protocols and all those things, but yeah, there's I think a lot of healing
Mm.
here for me, and I'm just leaning into that. Did the sun just like illuminate you right quick?
I think it might have.
Wait,
I,
yes,
I was looking.
yes.
I was looking at that like before you hopped on. It was doing some weird stuff. I was like, "Yo, what's going on with the?" I was thinking
Oh,
maybe the camera was trying to like
oh,
calibrate
I
or something.
love it.
But
Oh, I love it. Yeah, no, it just went like gold. I was like, oh,
like,
yeah,
look at
yes,
that. All
okay.
right, doing something
Forever
right.
messages, always. Yes, yes, yes.
How have your how's your family doing down in Southern California? Are they ecstatic, elated to have you back?
Yeah, yeah, all of those things. And it's interesting because you had actually opened up with, your mom moving out of your
Mm.
home of, did you say 43 years?
Yeah, she'd been there 43 years.
Oof, yeah. And my mom's also going through a big transition,
Mm.
having left her old job. And
Mm.
yeah, and so I think there's something about like when our mothers go
Mm.
through their
Mm-hmm.
changes. And I'm pretty confident that my mom is in her second Saturn's return. She's like upstairs, so she's probably listening.
Shit, invite
But
her down.
oh yeah, you'd love her. Oh my God, you'd love her. But yeah, there's something about, of course, we're going through our transitions and changes and
Hmm.
in our worlds, because our worlds revolve around us, because they just do.
Yeah.
But I think our creators go through their changes and transitions that life requires of them is a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
So I felt you when you were just, yeah, speaking to the like release that you felt on the
Mm.
plane. And I think for me, being in the Bay and not being in proximity when that was happening was really hard for me. It was like,
Mm.
I wanted to be here. I wanted to be in the physical, but I just kind of had to like maintain and wait and be patient. And there's also something I think about being in a plane. Like, I don't know if you were in the window seat or the aisle seat.
I can't do the window.
Oh, okay.
I'm not. I take it back. It's not
Okay,
that
okay.
I can't do it. I prefer not to. I'm not claustrophobic. Clearly,
Uh-huh.
I'm not claustrophobic. I just don't feel. I don't like that idea of being inside.
Sure. Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
I'll be on outside.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
mind if anybody else needs to get up, move. I will
yeah.
move. Matter of fact,
That's
I would graciously move because I'm going to be moving this entire flight. You know what I mean? Like, I don't fit
mhm.
on planes.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm not
Mhm.
to that point yet where I'm just like, yep, first class all day. Not to that point. I don't know. Who knows what happened in the future, but
I
for
can
right
see that. Yeah.
now, but for right now, it's all right. So I'm gonna be halfway in the seat,
True that.
and then I'm gonna be halfway in the aisle,
Yeah.
and yeah. But
Yeah.
um, so isn't it interesting to watch? I mean, this is something. I mean, I've watched my dad, but it's interesting to be kind of more observant of them and not I wasn't
Mm.
like I've been looking at my parents less as parents but more as people,
Mm.
right? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm starting to understand more about you. And like,
Mm.
yeah, I think that's hard, right? That can be difficult because you don't really do I don't think anybody ever really like tells you, hey, like look at your parent as a person. They're always gonna be a parent.
Yeah.
um However, I do think it's almost inevitable. At some point, you're going to look at them like, yeah, there's a whole different side to you, a whole different side outside of like the nurturing you.
There's a whole
A whole,
story.
the
A
whole
whole
story.
story there.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
100. 100.
Have you noticed that being back home?
Oh yeah, always. I think, it helps me grow compassion
Mm, mm,
and understanding,
mm.
because, I think to your point, like, there's also a moment where, I don't know, if I'm like activated,
Yeah.
I'll really see them as people.
Mm,
Like,
yeah. Yep. Yep.
I think I think especially like in your adulthood, there's ways in which you then have all your experiences of the outside world, the outside, you know, exchanges.
Mm-hmm.
And then when something like similar happens inside, you're like, wait a minute, wait it. I know what that is. Oh no, no.
I see you.
I'm gonna go to my room.
I have to exit. I have to go this.
I'm gonna regulate and
Why you think I went on that damn 10-mile hike today? Like, I, there's a mountain. I'm gonna go get to the top of it, and that's gonna take me a long time. And I'm perfectly okay with that, and I'm pretty sure
Mhm.
everyone is also
Mhm.
okay with that. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I have been I have thought about one of our conversations. Um,
Oh shoot.
I thought about one of our conversations, and it made me really happy to think about because you finally confirmed that you were exploring going back to school.
Ah. Yep.
Yep, and
Yep.
I was like, yes,
Yes.
yes,
Ah.
yes, please.
Woo.
We need it. I was like, this is exactly who we need in education. We need you to be back in the
Ah.
classroom.
Ah.
Because I'm, being in grad school has broadened every bit of me,
Mm.
and I recognize how valuable it can be.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
recognize the obstacles. I recognize the barriers. I
Mhm.
recognize that. But I get energized when I'm like, oh, but we need people. We need representation. We need representation
Yeah.
within these systems, right?
Yeah.
And so, having known you for years, I'm like, wait, for real? Okay. Because I remember early on, earlier years. I was like, you were talking about your experience at Cal,
Um.
and I would say maybe it wasn't. I don't want to say distaste, but you had some feelings of
I have some.
you had some feelings about Cal, and I was like, okay. All right, all right, damn, it's real. Okay, all right, all right. So it was just. I think we've all had those experiences for the most part. A lot of
Yeah.
us, specifically with I would say communities of color, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
if we get even deeper, communities of color in predominantly white institutions,
Exact. Mhm.
right? You can have a really bad experience, right? And that can deter you from it furthering your academic journey,
Yeah.
right? Not to
Yeah.
say it's necessary, but again, I see a lot of value within academia.
Mhm.
So yeah, what prompted this?
Oh man. So good. Golden question of my life. Honestly, um do you see all the feelings that are
Uh
coming?
huh. So I asked. I was like, "Yeah, I was like, that's a deep one. You got to go some places for that."
Yeah, it's definitely been a huge reflection of mine this year.
Mm,
And it was in July when I, made the decision. I was like, okay, I'm gonna finally do it.
mm.
I know y'all have been waiting, and here I am.
Here we go.
Here we go. Um, but yeah, there's, let me kind of, where do I want to begin with it? Um, okay, I'll start from where the beginning feels like for me. Um, in 2016, I had gotten a reading, um, and this Baba was like, "Oh, what Spirit was saying was, oh, you need to be collecting degrees," and I was like, "Nah, nah, 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 nah." I was just like, "You're kind of like, I mean, that was who am I to say that Spirit is wrong?" But but I was really like, no, 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 because I felt like, I felt like I was on the path that I was supposed to be on post grad, which was like performing arts, and
Mhm.
I think actually I had just left. I think I had just left Boys and Girls Clubs at that time when
Yep.
I had that reading, and so, just like pursuing the artist game strong was kind of the only thing on my mind at the time. And then
Mm-hmm.
this priest wanted to tell me that I'm supposed to go back to school, and I was like, no.
I don't think so.
No, I was just like, there must be a, can you redo, um and at the same time, from that point on, I knew that I was supposed to go back to
Mm-hmm.
school. There
Yeah.
was like something deep down that was like, yeah, you're supposed to go back, you're gonna go back.
Mm-hmm.
When is the question?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I think at that time um I had just, I think I had just joined, the street dance theater company that I'm on now, Embodiment Project. So there was many parts where I was like, nah, I'm just getting started. Why would
Yeah.
I go back to school? Um, and then it kind of became like a thing in the background, like I am building, my artist repertoire and this and that. And always in the back was kind of like, okay, and then maybe in this year, or maybe in this, fall out, all those kind of just knowing it's on the plate, it's on the platter,
Yep.
but not really feeling like it should be the main course.
Yeah.
And kind of like actually deep down kind of hoping that like it might not ever need to be.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. And so and 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 then so fast forward, I remember, I think 2 years later I had another reading, and, and then the same thing came up. And
Mm.
it was kind of like a, when in the practice, when things come up again, it
Yeah.
basically means like you haven't done it yet, you haven't done the thing that you're supposed to do.
Okay.
So what's going on? Anyways, and me not really being able to face my fear is what kept me like just kind of pushing it away. And then, so fast forward to this past year,
Yeah.
in the summertime, I was, not a unique story, but I was one of the many artists just doing something else, like
Yeah.
just no longer in my day-to-day like rehearsal flow, teaching artist flow. I mean, honestly, in this moment, if I'm to actually like reflect on the hustle that I was hustling when COVID began, like right up to, I'm kind of like, damn, I was in motion,
Oh,
like
yeah.
some days driving across the bridge, and I don't live near the bridge at all. You know where I live.
Yeah.
It's like closer to the ocean. And yeah, just like crossing the bridge for rehearsal, and then crossing the bridge again back to like teach at Hunter's Point, just like just I was in motion. I was just like on the go, gig to gig. But I loved it, and I loved everything, not everything. You know that. You know what's over there. we
Right.
loved we loved the work. We loved the
Rude.
movement, and the relationships, and
Yep.
the creative juice flow. And yeah, I was not doing that. I was at home. I was doing like some admin stuff. I was on unemployment. I was doing a lot of like more so organizing, and kind of back in this like activist brain, which I'm always in,
Sure.
but I think there was a time when I was when that and art were more like side to side, rather than the art being the main course. And I reached a point where I was doing all of these things in these amazing conversations for liberation, and our reimagined futures, and all this like radical like family like love, like honestly.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of hit a rock bottom, and I didn't realize I was there, if that makes any sense.
Sure. Absolutely.
Like I kind of I think I was exhausted. I think I had felt fatigued. And I think in that fatigue, I looked at the many things I was doing and I realized I was only making income off of unemployment.
Mm.
And I was like, wait a minute.
Hold
You
on one
know, it
second.
was just kind of like, wait, what? What? Wait, like kind of this like wait, I already went through this. I already been through this, like, you know, I've brought myself up and out of this already. Why am I
Mm.
here again? And it kind of it sent me, you know, into this like spiral of depression, but not in a way in which I was like totally just unable to do things, but I couldn't do things anymore that I knew were not like they were good things. They were like amazing conversations that we should be having and work that should be you know had at this moment. But I think more and more I was realizing like, oh, I'm not supposed to be doing this right now. Like
Yeah.
I'm what I am doing is overextending myself.
I I I saw it briefly. Obviously, I didn't. I haven't. In our convert, yeah. Like I obviously I don't know everything
Mm-hmm.
that you were doing hour by hour, but I just remember in our conversations, we would do our check-ins and just see how each other are doing, and obviously both of us are aligned in our passions to see not only see but actively participate in social change, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's absolutely a part of us, and I think that's what is in a sense kept us together, right? Just that solidarity. Like, man, we still
You
still going,
know,
huh?
all day.
Yeah, right. Like, all right, yep, still going, still going. But yeah, you did. I remember just hearing you talk, and it was like,
Mm,
I gotta go here. Okay, then
mm,
there.
mm-hmm,
And after I go there, I gotta go home. And after I go home, I gotta go back out. And I'm like, oh yeah. And I was,
mm-hmm,
that was one of the things that I started to notice recently about the city.
mm-hmm.
I do think it's kind of turned in, not even the city when I say the city, San Francisco, but the Bay Area. And even outside of that, I think sometimes I can isolate the Bay Area and not think about other places like
Sure,
it's not
sure.
happening. But this culture that we read about, this culture that we observe, but we can't, some, we can observe it, but sometimes we fail to recognize that we're a part of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when you were talking
Yes.
about like not really recognizing it or like feeling
Mm-hmm.
it, a similar situation, you stop. That's a part of the feeling that you've lost,
Mm,
right? And
mm-hmm.
and I think it's just so normalized.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, this is what I guess not even not what I'm supposed to do, but it's becoming a routine. I know I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
I know I am
Oh,
capable.
I'm capable.
I'm capable of doing it. And there's another, uh, um, a person of movement, right? It does feel good. Like it feels good. You're like, oh yeah, cool. I can boom, boom,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
doing it
Mm-hmm.
until it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Until it does. You're like, oh wait, hold on, one second here.
Yeah.
Um, what was you said you talked about fear? What was when you got to read? What was
Yep,
your
yep, yep.
fear?
All day, all day. So, so I ended up getting a reading, and I had these questions, you know, because I really felt like I felt like I was at a crux, you know.
Mm,
I was like, okay, it's not where I want to be financially.
mm,
And knowing your capabilities, right? Like knowing your gifts and talents and being like, no, 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 wait a minute. This is not how spirit or my ancestors want me to live. Wait a minute, you know, just like being really real about it.
yeah.
um and so when it was like a, you know, another confirmation of like yes, you need to go to school. I was like, I'm going to school.
I'm going to school.
I'm going back to school. And it was, I was like, I really like understood that this has been my, it just is my path,
Yeah.
and I think kind of also being real about sometimes you just need to surrender to your path, and it might not be the thing that you envision for yourself in that moment, or even haven't been envisioning for yourself, but for some reason there's something
Yeah.
that needs to be um, experienced, and excavated, and so of course it sent me, down a spiral of my own in terms of reflection of like, why have I put it off for
Mm.
so long? Like 4 years basically. I feel like I've put it off,
Mm.
or kind of like just put it over there.
Put it on there.
Um, and I went into this deep introspective place around my experience in undergrad,
Mm.
and like you said, of course, I'm like, I have no idea what I said to you at that time when I was talking about Cal, but I'm sure it was fueled by ABCDFG. Um, but I think at its essence, in its core essence,
Mm.
my fear was that by going back to academia, I would fall back into toxic behaviors
Mm.
and patterns that I was no longer in and never wanted to be ever again,
Mm.
and I think in my, personal healing journey, like those were decisions, clear decisions, like, no, those are places, spaces, and exchanges that I'm not interested anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think what was happening was subconsciously I created, kind of this like the academia, I think, became like a monster,
Mm.
for
Yeah.
me. Um, and it was hard for me to like honor the good parts, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh.
Like I was so focused on the negative, and just like, heartbreak in many circumstances, and just the way things kind of had ended. Like
Yeah.
I think if I look at my undergrad, like there's just like there is so much like beauty, there's so much like joy, there's so much like goodness and growth. And then there's this one part like towards the end, my senior year, where it's like darkness and
Mm.
just and I, and coming from that and realizing like, what realizing what happened, right? And um just saying no, never again.
Yeah.
um and so I had to be really real about that with myself, that that actually like what I need to do is face that fear, and to actually like realize that I'm not there anymore.
Sure.
So if it is that I am in this new skin, and if it is that I am, conscious and deepening my own healing journey, like, every day, then that won't be the same experience.
Yeah.
And really trusting that, if this is like the path, if this is the, path that spirit's like, come on, do it, then I have to do it.
Yeah. Who
Yeah.
else? Who's been? Is there any? Has been? Has there been anyone who has kind of kicked you in this? Like, I don't want to kick you. Reinforcing this
Mm-hmm.
feeling that you're having. Thank you.
Um,
I was about to say. I was like, turn these lights on. We're, we're about to slip into a whole different kind of conversation. All right, let me turn mine off.
I know, I know, I
But,
know.
now, yeah, is there any who's reinforcing this? Because I think it's one thing to obviously you're self motivated and you're like, oh, I'm gonna
Mm,
do this, and um you've had some spiritual support.
mm-hmm.
Has there been a really vocal? Has there been anyone like really advocating for this, like vocally?
Oh man, I mean, basically everyone that I've told,
Yeah.
which it's so funny. It's so funny. We get so caught up in our worlds.
Mhm. Mhm. When you first told me, I looked at the phone like, thank God,
Alas,
that last, geez, come on, and that
where
like,
has she been? Oh my god.
I thought you would have been back in school before I got back in school. Like I talk about 4 years, 14 for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I've been out of the game. But yeah, when you sent me that text, actually, it wasn't even a text. It was you're the only person I know who sends me voice messages. The only person I know,
It's the
length,
way.
lengthy voice messages that are clear.
Clear.
Yeah, they're always clear. They're like that's really why. At first, I used to. At first, I'm like, why the hell is she sending me these damn voice texts or like whatever these? Who does this? And then and then I was like, hold on, they're not bad. They're not bad. I understand exactly what she's getting. Like, okay, they're not. They're very clear, not only in sound, but you're giving. I'm like, oh, okay. If this is how she wants to communicate, all right,
it's
sure.
it's like it's stream of consciousness, and you get to like listen and respond in your own time. I don't know. I think it's genius.
If it works for you, again, you're the only person I know who does this. And I do think that there is something about reflection and having the time to like figure out what you want to say. And that was a practice for me because I was like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, all right, slow down, just listen. And there was multiple times where I had to listen twice. Like, oh man, I might have missed something because you sent me some lengthy ones. You definitely sent some lengthy. I'm like,
I'm the queen of lengthy voice messages. The longest one I've sent is probably 30 minutes. It sounds ridiculous saying it now, but trust with the person that I sent it to, they could equally send me a 30-minute one back. It's like,
it's funny to think about because I've thought about. I'm like, I wonder where she is. Like, I'm imagining where you are, what you look like as you're holding the phone and
don't
just
do
going. You know what I mean? Like going for like 3 minutes because 3 minutes is a considerable amount of time.
oh, it's nothing. Three
And
minutes is nothing.
clearly, clearly, if you're talking about you sent someone a 30-minute um message, but yeah, like we've actually, now that I think about it, we've had you are the most unique person when it comes to communication. And I remember that
Oh.
I think that was like early on when I met you. I think I tried to like call you
Oh.
and calling when I calling
I
was
don't
like,
answer calls.
I'm not answering calls. Like, yo, can you please pick up the phone? And then I would get these text messages. I'm like, oh my god, okay, you know what? I'm I because I'm a phone call person. I hate text messages. I think at the time when I met you, I don't even think I had social media yet. And so I was just like, I will
Yikes.
just pick the damn phone up. Like I just no, okay, all right. I will I will change because I recognize that majority of the world does send text messages.
Yeah.
That's how they communicate. So I can.
Mm.
But anyhow, we got off on a tangent communication style. All right, so you have a laundry list, I'm sure, of people that have been supported. This just like reaffirming this.
Yeah, most def.
I don't want to get you in trouble here. Who's standing out? Who's the person?
Oh, I mean, honestly, who stands out is I'm like, is this private information? The three, folks who are my recommenders.
Mm,
These are like they are like one of them actually uses this term standing stone.
standing stone. It was.
Yeah, I don't fully. I feel like I I feel like I feel like when she first started saying that to me, I don't think I fully understood. You know, it was still a new term for me, but I think over over time, and specifically our relationship,
Yeah.
I've really felt what that means. You
Mm.
know, and I think if you want to like visualize it, I literally imagine kind of like what's that? It's like that ancient hedge, stone hedge. Is
Stonehead.
that is
Yeah,
that
you're talking
what I'm
about the
talking
like
about?
sculpture. Yeah, the like.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I kind of think of that
Oh yeah.
like they are an embodiment of that,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
That is a.
Um,
Those are standing rocks.
yeah, and you know, I mean, I'll say their names because all day, like I honor them and I'm an extension of them. All of them, yeah, are my mentors in different capacities, and one of them is my it's my number one, Amara Tabor Smith. She is an incredible Afro-futurist conjure woman, doula to the death of patriarchy, point blank period.
Yeah.
Jack Gray, who's a Maori contemporary artist, scholar. They're all choreographers. They all, you know, have had their hand in academia and still have ties to different respects. They all make work. He's the one who really set me on my decolonizing journey.
Mm.
Um, he was really, you know, in that time of darkness for me in my senior year, he was really kind of the person who was like, and now there's light.
And here we go.
And here we go. And you're on your path. And then Nicole Claymoon, who's my artistic director for Embodiment Project.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I think it's interesting because they all kind of know me in the same ways, you know, like through dance. I've danced for them or like with them, like in space with them. They've taught me like directly. I've been a student of theirs. Um, but then there's so much more, you know, there's so much more that those relationships have opened up and offered to my own life. I like super, you know, if they were here, I would just like lay on the floor and like just kind of like, yeah, my gratitude for them respectively is so immense and deep. And there's a witnessing that they've done for me over the years that has really propelled me to realize myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what? Where are you in the process?
Oh, I got into phase 2 for one of the schools.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's great.
All
It's
right.
yeah, it's kind of it's my first choice. So,
Okay.
okay.
What's
And then
what's phase two mean?
yeah, so it's so interesting. In some ways I feel like I've been preparing for this
Good.
like all my life, you know?
Yeah.
Um because for an MFA, there's you know the general application to the university, but there's also like work sample, resume, CV,
Mm.
um, and it's really the work samples, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, like I've been writing grants for myself, like you know, for 6 years now,
Mm.
and so in a lot of ways, I'm like, oh, I've been preparing for this
I've-
moment.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, and so that application you had to submit I think 2 work samples, and then phase 2 is i think I think actually if it wasn't COVID I think it would be an in-person audition,
Okay.
but since with COVID it's a third work sample and a 15-minute interview.
Interesting.
Yeah,
All right.
so it feels like phase 1 was the like meat, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that perhaps this is just some supplemental. So just, you know, crossing fingers, prayers up, feeling good about that. And then I want to apply to 2 other schools, and
Okay.
I just haven't the next one's due January 15th. So
I was getting ready to say, if you're applying to school, that
I know.
deadline is coming up.
You know, COVID has kind of pushed back things here and there. So, you know.
Are all of them MFA programs?
Hmm. Hmm.
So what drove that? You could have went in a number of directions, but you've chosen the MFA, which I'm happy to hear because it sounds like something that will been that has the opportunity to like drive your curiosity even more.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know. So yeah,
Yeah.
why the MFA?
You know, honestly, I think first, like one of my first thoughts when I
Hmm.
was previously just like set on an MFA, it's because I didn't get a BFA.
Mm.
It's because I, I couldn't major in dance in undergrad because that would not have been a thing, you know, for my parents at the time.
Oh yeah. Oh, you beat me to man. You beat me to my next question. Beat me to my-
um, and it's interesting because I remember thinking like, oh, but can I get an MFA if I don't have a BFA? You
Mhm.
know, and then I was kind of I just kind of left that inquiry. I think, you know, I was just
Yeah,
like, oh, I don't know how it's gonna happen, but I'm gonna make it.
I'm gonna make it.
And then, you know, and then yeah, fast forward to this moment where I'm like, oh, I have everything I need for the MFA application.
Yeah.
Okay.
How's that? Did you have relationships with people at any of the universities? Like, or not even like previous, but like, have you established? Has that been something that's been helpful in terms of like connecting with administrators,
Yeah.
faculty, whatever it may be?
Totally. It felt really important to meet someone
Mm-hmm.
for each, you know. And I mean, it's really, I mean, you know, but it's so different than undergrad, the whole
Oh God.
process. I
Nope.
mean, it looks the same, like application wise, but I'm like, oh, I didn't do this in undergrad. You know, like I didn't look at who's at the school.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't look at the faculty. I didn't really like look as deep into the programs and so yeah, you know, there's this real like in some ways no, I wouldn't say it's intimidating, but there's a refinement I think that's required that I think for me personally is reassuring, like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, we're we have to actually be on the same page about some stuff before we enter this relationship, you know, this exchange. Whereas undergrad you kind of just like, all right,
Let's do it. We'll figure it out when we get there.
undeclared,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so you kind of have to, right, figure some stuff beforehand. um and so yeah, it was actually interesting because I did have a one-on-one with someone from a
Okay.
private, and then I was like, oh man, you know, I was like, I kind of like this a lot, but it's actually the school I see myself least at. It was probably number three of the three.
Okay.
um but I was like, oh, but I really like, I could see us, you know, like me and like dude, we could work together.
The relationship. Yeah, that
Yeah, you
relationship.
know, like I could see that. And so that kind of like solidified that I wanted to apply, even though I'm not like totally 100% sure if I could see myself in the geographical location of the
Ah.
school. Yeah, that's, you know, that's important for me.
Is it outside of California?
Oh yeah, is
Like in a
in
different part of the
is
world?
in North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Oh, see, the thing is, if it was in a different part of the world, I feel like I would be more like inclined for that than North Carolina.
Oh, um, yeah, I can see that. If it was a different part, you'd be like, yeah, you know, that might be number one. um,
Oh
okay,
my
North
goodness.
Carolina. All right, that's
Yeah.
one state down from where I'm at.
Yes.
Uh,
But then yeah, and that it was just interesting because it actually helped me to realize that I hadn't done that with the other two campuses, two universities, and I was like,
are
"Oh,
they? Are they in California?
One is in California, and then the other one is in Philly.
Which is the school in California your first choice?
Yeah.
I kind of want you to go to Philly.
Well, I was thinking of doing the low residency program, which means I could stay where I want to stay in the fall and winter and spring, but I would be there in the summer. But there's just, there's honestly that might be more it's my second choice.
Okay.
It might be more so the first if it wasn't COVID. I think that's just the realness of it. Like for
I
me, yeah, for me it doesn't. I don't think I could be away for 2 years in this specific time.
Mhm.
Any other time, yes, but this specific time, it feels like important to be here.
Hmm. I think you got some magic that should be spread.
I think that's gonna. No, I'm confident that that's gonna happen.
Yeah, yeah. And I also think that my experience with people similar to me in terms of movement and creativity um, and being from California, I think that we approach the world with through a different lens,
Mm, yeah.
and everybody could use a little bit.
Okay, say that
And
again.
I think people could use a little bit of California, and I don't want to make it a one sided relationship. I do think that we do have a different lens, and there's some really beautiful stuff that we don't have. I was just talking about. I was going through. This is kind of weird, not weird. I was walking. I was doing a hike yesterday. My dad lives next door to the high school that he went to. And I remember him years, and he's like gung ho. He's like gung ho Roanoke, right? He's like, this place made me. It's so important. And, I never, again, going back, like, okay, like, sure, that's great. Like, that's wonderful. But never really understood what it wasn't just high school, right? High school in a small, segregated um, town in Virginia, high school means something completely different. And I would say that this was a all black high school, right? And that means something completely different,
Mm,
right? And so I was walking over and I was looking at it. And so I think his class, he was on this committee to like create a monument in front of the high school. And so I'm walking by and I'm looking at it. And I need to do a little bit more homework. The high school is called Lucy Addison High School. I'm not sure who Lucy Addison is, but apparently she's the person whose name was chosen, or they were like, you've done some work,
sure.
right? And I was just looking at this monument, and it's, I don't think it's anything crazy, but it's there's something about there's something about the monument that I could see where people feel a sense of pride when they go into the building.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, what year did that guy graduate? I'm sure he probably graduated in like the 60s at some point, or like,
Uh-huh,
you know what I'm
uh-huh.
saying? But like maybe even, yeah, like the 60s. But if, like that, somebody really cared, right? For them to put that type of effort into creating this monument, right? And so thinking about, I'm thinking about monuments, and this is a really, as we talk about monuments and COVID and segregation and racial tension in the country, where we're seeing these monuments being taken down, which I completely agree with. I don't want them now. I do think that they should be put somewhere like a museum, because I think that we shouldn't forget the ugly history,
Mm,
and we got to be careful about who we put up, who says it's okay to put, you know what I mean? You know,
Mhm.
that's where it gets real dicey for me.
Mhm.
But I was thinking about, you know, I went to a historically Black college, and again, those institutions are very historical. It's more than just the education. They're like a foundation within Black American culture, right? And so I was talking to a friend of mine who went to Howard in D.C., and we were talking about this idea of monuments because they're like you're preserving history, right? And it's important. I think it's important to do that. Like you do want to recognize, you want to recognize like the journey, right?
Mhm.
And I don't know if we do that a lot in California. Like that's one of the things. Like I'm not sure. I don't see that a ton as opposed to
Mhm.
the East Coast or the South.
Mm, yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, like that's just not something. I was like, oh damn, like yeah, who the hell? I was like, nobody's creating any monuments or whatever. And you know, I'm not saying that you
No.
have to, but it's just it was something that dawned on me. This idea of like the preservation of history.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Either way, that's where my thought process went when we were talking about. I think I just forgot how I got to monuments. What are we talking about? Preservation.
Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
I don't know. Is it because you wanted me to go to Philly?
I was just. Oh yeah, yeah. There we go. Thank you. It was talking about the relationship of like I was saying. I think I think people could use a little California,
Right, right,
and I
right,
also
right.
think we as California often kind of bask in the glory because people
Mm.
love California.
Oh yeah.
People
Oh.
love California. It's like another
And
country.
we love
And we love
California.
California. We're like, yeah,
We
we do.
like
Isn't it great?
why leave why leave
Why would I ever
California?
leave? Right? I would say the same thing for people in New York. Like, people forget that too. Like, there's a lot of people in New York who are like, why would I leave New York? I'm like,
Or why would I go to California?
why would I go to California? I'm like, I don't, because it's California. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Mhm.
Like,
I
but
mean, it's
either
the
way,
weather.
yeah, the weather alone.
Yeah.
People, yeah, weather, people, whatever. I don't want to get into
Right. 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 Right.
get into that.
Right.
But I do think that could be really like I think it was a really special thing for me. And not to say it would be super special for you. You know, you're gonna have your own experience, but just that uh diversity of thought,
Mhm.
you know, like getting out uh was really important for like it was very important for me. I was like, oh, it almost gave me a pulse similar to the pulse I'm getting right now in Virginia of what is going on in the country.
Yeah.
It
Right.
really and I really appreciate it. I mean, I love California. I love uh, always gonna be always gonna be home.
Mhm.
But I recognize sometimes that I'm like, man, we live in a different country.
Sure. Sure.
We
Yep.
live
Yep.
somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, it's just God, like walking up and down like that in Philly, North Carolina, you know, whatever. Again, I'm just reminded of like there's the country's vast.
Mm.
It's huge.
Mhm. Mhm.
And um yeah, I just think that you've traveled globally and you've
Mhm.
had those experiences, right? Where you're like,
Mhm.
oh damn, this is just wow, okay. I think the last time you were talking about traveling, the last thing I can remember is when you went to Brazil. And you were in Brazil for like 4 or 5 months. Was it longer?
Oh, wow, that would be dope. Maybe the next time I go.
Oh,
I
was it
was there
shorter?
for 2 months. I was there for 2 months.
Maybe I wanted you to be there for four.
Yeah,
You
totally.
could just get all in.
That was like 2 years ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was 2 years ago.
Did you ever think about not coming back?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Actually, the first time I went there, that's when I really didn't want to come back, but I had to graduate.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. But that's, I think that's the thing for me is what quick quip was that I remember being there the last time. Ooh, and when people like found out I was from the States, they would just be like, kind of like, "Are you okay?"
Oh, damn, really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. But the exchange I'm thinking about is actually like folks who were coming to Brazil from Argentina, so
Oh,
they were not under the Brazil regime. But yeah, I think, I mean, yeah, I haven't been super up to date with what's happening there now, but I think in a lot of ways, like the U.S. and Brazil have been like mirrors to each other,
hmm. Oh,
in the
yeah.
past years, in the same way the Philippines has as well, just having these really like tyrannical, um, fascist leaders just get to do whatever they want. Um, so yeah, I'll just say that I think my relationship to Brazil is ongoing, and I'm like, well, if I could, I don't know, maybe I'll like get my do some PhD work there or
Make it happen.
something, like I
Make it
think
happen.
it's gonna happen. But actually, in my initial dreamings of getting my MFA,
Yeah.
I was sure I was going to New York.
Really?
Yeah,
Mm.
I think, especially like as a performing artist,
Oh,
choreographer, dancer, like, New York has always been the like bright lights,
it is.
the shiny star. It
Yeah.
is for anyone in performing arts. But I'm not gonna lie. Like when I was looking at programs this time around, I was like, mm, I don't think like what I want to do is actually there MFA
Mhm.
wise. Maybe like if I want to do another MFA or do a PhD.
Yeah.
Um, but I do like I gotta. I'm like once I feel like and I feel like I love New York, but I'm like, ooh, that's not the place I want to be in COVID time. Like
No.
that's the
Oh,
number
no.
one place I
Oh,
don't want to be. So I'm like, we could defer that dream to a later date. Um, but yeah, I feel you, like I mean, even when I moved out of LA to the Bay for
yeah.
undergrad, that was a like I was living in such a bubble, and I think we just do that. We just live in a bubble up to a certain point, and then either we choose to like have our bubble popped, or we just continue floating in the bubble. And I think everyone, I don't know. It's interesting because I think before I would say like everyone has their own timing, and I do believe in that. But I also very much believe that everyone, has different personalities
Yeah.
that just some people won't ever make it out of their bubble, and that's not a bad thing. It just kind of is. And that, I could like that's a whole thing on astrology that around radical acceptance of like
Mm.
how we are as individuals, and going back all the way to our previous beginning opening initial conversation is like, those who we grew up with, those who caretake us, they too have their own astrological chart that it just is.
What um what are your hesitations about maybe moving away? If you have any. I don't even think you did, so I don't want to put that on you. Do you have any?
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I still I'm like, I recognize that I do have a rep for going.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
my sister would say that, I think a lot of people would say that. I don't know anyone who would not say that.
Mhm.
Maybe that's the thing. um and I do believe that's very much a part of my path, and I'm going to continue to do that. But I also want a house.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's something that I've like, I feel like I've really landed in this year,
Mm,
is like, oh, I actually don't want to be like the artist renting an apartment for all her life. I want a house that I can call my own, and land I can like nurture and
mm,
grow gardens on, and grow food on. And so, kind of having that and like the long term vision, I think, yeah, I think I don't think I have. Mm, if I had any reservations, it would just be like being further away from my family,
yeah.
because I love my family,
Mm-hmm.
and I all of those movies where like all of a sudden the child has to like fly home and this and that, and I'm just like, I don't want to do
Yeah.
that. But yeah, I'm like, I'm positive. I think once, I mean, who knows when we'll be out of this time? Who knows? It's an era in itself.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, yeah, things have shifted where it feels right to be here. Um, and then I think once things shift again, I'll be cruising, flying, and doing the work that I'm supposed to be doing on a more international level. And it's interesting because you've seen all the posts where like folks are like, "Ugh, I wish I was traveling. Oh, this trip." And I'm like, yes, grieve that. We need to grieve those
Sure.
things.
Please.
We need to grieve those things
Mm-hmm.
for sure. But I think for me, like, I think I'm just like, I just, I get that that's not what's supposed to be happening right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I get that the earth is doing her thing and is doing her
Clearly.
rebalancing thing,
Mm-hmm.
and we are just humans.
Uh-huh.
We're just
Well, tiny specks.
spirits. We are just spirits having a human experience, and if we're going to get with her program, we might get that trip in 2022.
Uh,
If we don't want to get with her program, I don't know. There's a lot of unknown, and it's really gonna depend on like the human race.
well, her message is loud and clear.
It's loud.
Super. It's super
It's
loud.
loud.
You know,
Yeah.
y'all are super connected, right?
It's
Y'all know y'all are more connected you can possibly imagine, right?
Yep. Yep.
It doesn't
Yep.
take much for this to
Yep.
get shut down.
No, 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 no. Honestly, there was, so last night it was raining here, like storm. I think my sister said it was hailing,
Mm.
and there was like lightning, and I remember like, yeah, it was kind of like,
Yeah.
it was kind of like world is ending type of
Mhm.
rainstorm,
Yeah.
like if all of a sudden like my windows crashed open, it felt like that was
Right.
gonna
You're like, oh,
happen.
okay.
Yeah, and I
Here
kind
we
of
go.
there was kind of a moment where I was just, I think I remember like shifting and like laying my hands out, kind of as like a, okay, ready for anything.
Uh-huh.
And like really like, yeah, I think I had a moment last night where I was like, all right, this might be
This is it.
this might
Here we go.
here we go. This might be it. She might be like having her final say. And
Like y'all keep playing around. Yeah. Keep playing around. It's fine.
yeah, it's worrisome.
Sure.
And then I think on the other end, it's like, well, we better we better experience all the joy we can experience while we're here. There's like so many levels to it.
Right. This is temporary. This is super temporary. Especially in this, in this form. Whatever whatever your belief systems are in this form, very temporary. And just as much as you should be able to grieve, you need to grieve. just as much as you need to like have some fun, figure, you know, have some experiences. If that's something that I've taken away from this,
Yeah.
I've always prided myself on having very little, you know,
Mm.
in the spectrum of minimalism. I'm
Mm.
definitely close, man. Like I always want to like, I mean, that's a whole deeper dive as to why I don't like a lot of things.
Mm.
Um, but they don't, you know, and they don't fulfill me.
Mhm.
Relationships fulfill me. Experiences with those relationships or with those, you know, the people. That's what fulfills me. You know, I'm writing a cover letter for jobs now, for, you know, to be a school counselor or to, you know, some teaching jobs. And it's funny to to write and break away from what I think someone wants to hear. And I'm
Mm.
writing the way I want to,
Yeah.
and I'm not holding like it's about I'm expressing my feeling within a short, you know, whatever page of writing. And I talked about that. I talked about how important. I was like, yeah, relationships can be transformative and transcendent. They can take somebody, like a relationship, an experience, one experience can legit transcend someone's developmental process,
Yeah.
right? And and quite honestly, that's the only thing I wanted to write. But I felt like that
Mm.
would have been like, somebody might have read that and be like, you're an asshole. But you know, but I thought about it. I was like, what if I just wrote that?
Yeah.
Because that's what I offer, right? If anything, what I offer is a safe relationship,
Mm.
right? I don't agree, you know, I don't subscribe to this idea of safe space.
Mm.
One, because I don't know who that's for. And
Mhm.
the people who I hear the conversations where I hear that comment is usually around people who don't who yeah, I would say white people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I would
Mhm.
say white people.
Mhm.
And I've come across too many instances. One, let's be real. This is like you said. There was a storm, and you thought the world was
Yeah.
like
Raining now.
right. You were like, is this it? Like, could have been,
Could been.
could have been. You know,
I ready? Yeah, I was.
yeah. Like,
I was.
are you ready? I was ready.
I put my hands down.
Yeah. There was I was where was I? I was just north of. I was like an hour north of San Francisco, and oh, you know, I've accepted that I require challenges in my life.
Mm.
I love obstacles. Love,
Mm. That's deep.
yeah, I love them. I'm infatuated with them. I like
Huh.
putting myself into them,
Huh.
and there's benefit to that, and then there's more obstacles. Now, what I've done is try not to participate in um, relationships with people
Sure.
where those are obstacles. Even then, there's always
Sure.
going to be a little obstacle, but when they're like
Right. Right.
overly, you know.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But I started climbing this mountainous area on the coast, and you know, the voice inside was like, "Man, climb this shit, just
Come
climb it,
on. Yeah.
like climb it."
Yeah.
And I got halfway up, and I recognized I was like, this you are stupid.
Mm.
Because this you as I look down and I see rocks crumbling underneath me, I'm like, oh, this you could fall right now.
Okay.
Like you could fall right now.
Uh-huh.
Right now, it could be all over. So kind of similar situation. I was like, okay, well, if this is it, if this is it, right? Like fuck it. I guess I mean this was stupid, but this is kind of what I enjoy. I enjoy it. I enjoy that moment, right? This is a little bit more severe when I'm in the. I don't think we've talked in a while, but I love swimming.
Yeah.
I went out by the new Warrior Stadium,
Mm.
got into the water, swam with a friend of mine to the cove at AT&T Park.
Wow.
Right. And I'm like, dude, that was fun. And there was a game. And so there's boats and stuff. Like, I was like, oh, that's cool. So we swam back. Did not pay attention to any currents. Didn't pay attention. Didn't read about the currents. Just kind of, out there, being very California. Being very California about it.
Sure.
Everything's fine.
Sure.
It's fine.
Totally.
What's gonna happen is gonna happen.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Flow.
So we get there is a military vessel that's docked, and so one, it's just like it's a monstrosity, and it's an easy way to like remember how small you are.
Mm.
Anytime I open water swim, I'm reminded how small I am. I'm
Mm.
like, but that's something I love. I love that. I'm
Mm.
like, yes, I love this reminder. You are physically you are weak.
Mm.
As strong as you think you are. It's more of a it's a mental fit. Like I obviously have to like be strong to swim, but I'm like at any moment the weakest wave out here, if it decides that it wants to take me under, I don't have any. There's nothing that I can do except like, all right, let me relax. Let me get back up to the top of the water. So either way, we're swimming. Like we start swimming, and like I'm measuring the what is it? The numbers, like whatever. There's these huge numbers on the ship, and I'm like, all right, well, we're swimming. We can't get anywhere. I'm like, dude, we've been swimming for 10 minutes, and we stop, and I'm like, we haven't gone anywhere. I was like, fuck. Okay. And then it like the fight or flight kicks in. We're like, okay, we got to do something. We can't spend this much energy not going anywhere, because we won't make it.
Mm.
Right. And we're not in a pool, so there's nothing to hold on to. We legit have to
Mhm.
float.
Mhm.
Right. So I'm like, no, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna give it. I was like, we're really gonna like, let's go. We're gonna work through this. I would call that ego.
Mm.
Ego. We're gonna
Okay.
make this happen.
Okay.
Not listening, not factoring in.
Not listening.
Nope.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Try it for maybe 2 minutes, and then both of us come up same time. We're like out of breath. Like, holy shit. Yeah, we can't. All right, we're just gonna have to float, and we're gonna have to float for a couple miles because that's the next thing that we see. Maybe we'll be able to like find somewhere to hold on, like maybe to a dock or something. We end up having to the go underneath the ship because we realized like, no, if we go, we're going for at least 5-6 miles. So we saw this tire that was attached to the dock where the ship, you know, it wasn't the size, not the length of an aircraft carrier, but like the height of an aircraft carrier. Like we're talking about a massive vessel, right? We swim stupidly in between the this large propeller that
Oh my
and
gosh.
the back of the ship, and we hold on to a tire that is attached to the dock, and then we swim in between the dock and the ship, which is mm, maybe 4 feet wide. Not a ton of space. Don't know what's underneath. Whatever. long story short, the point of this, because it took us at least I think it took us like 3 hours to get back.
Oh,
So there were people, a friend of mine has a restaurant over there, and he was like, I was getting ready to call the Coast Guard because we thought you were like donezo.
oh my
And there
God.
was a guy fishing. And when we got to the dock, he's like, dude, y'all just got back? I was like, yeah. He's like, oh
Oh
my
my
God.
God.
But the whole point of that story was you never know. You never know. There's nothing guaranteed. There's nothing safe. There's nothing safe about
Right.
the world, right? And so those relationships, that's what I'm saying, like you know what got me through that? It wasn't it wasn't like, oh, this is a safe space. I was like, I'm with Mauricio and I trust him. We're on the same page. Like, this is real. It's fine. We're calm. We're gonna get through it. Not a problem. Not sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a calm person. I don't know what that situation would have been like by myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So like these relationships, yeah, I just keep going back to like how vital relationships are.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
how
Yeah. I feel that.
that's why I asked you about like who was in your corner essentially about this grass process.
Yeah.
And like the
Yep.
more
Yeah.
like you were talking about the MFA, and I guess this is where I want to bring in like the cultural piece,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is you might be you definitely might be the most vocal Filipino person I know. Well, vocal in terms of like not just being heard,
Mm-hmm.
but really talking and address being very transparent about that
Talking some truth.
right. Some truth, the experience, like yeah, really speaking about the experience that most folks don't talk about,
Mm.
right? And so when I think about you pursuing arts, right? That man, we know that is not something that everyone really understands. You're going to get a master's in arts. Does that the first thing I would assume that most people are gonna be like, well, does that make any money? Are you gonna be able to make like the first thing is like, well, I'm not sure what like, or they don't even understand, and
Mm-hmm.
so they
Yeah.
don't know how to approach that conversation,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I was just thinking. I mean, I've like I was thinking about your parents, right? And your parents are
Mm-hmm.
from the Philippines, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I don't know about your sister's path or track. I don't know if it's similar to yours, but I could see where people, not just you, but I'm saying people in your situation, right? Parents parents are from the Philippines, came to the United States. I'm sure that transition was not easy. I'm gonna go on the limb. I'm gonna go out on the limb and say that transition was not easy. In my general understanding of, and I'll say limited understanding of the Philippine experience and the lack of conversation that happens about the Philippine experience in the country, right? Right? It's not addressed.
Mm.
Um, and that could be really hard, right? We know that story of immigrant families who like come here like, you know what it took for me, you know what I'm saying? I'm speaking on behalf of parents. You know what it took for me to get here and then to bring you here. And this is where this country can eat you up,
Yeah.
right? The expectations and that you fall in line with Eurocentrism. Well, this is how you achieve health and wellness. This is how you pursue happiness. Let me do. This is the definition of happiness.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you to create your own. Just fall in line with what everyone else is doing. And we could go into capitalism and all that other shit, but that's a whole another. We can go down that road. But I quite honestly, I see it. I see it across all ethnicities, right?
Yeah.
And what you're doing in my mind, there's so many people who want to pursue things that make them happy, but they're like, oh man, I can't do that. Family
Yeah.
pressure, societal pressure.
Yeah. all of that.
Mm.
It's just since we're going into this topic, I do gotta big ups my parents.
Damn right.
Um,
Mom upstairs listening in.
you already know I am, 100% an extension of them. My mom's saying something.
Yeah.
But
Oh, did she hear?
my mom, Yolanda Peñaflor Dizon from Ginobatan, Albay in the Bicol region of the Philippines. It's the southern part, and my dad, Eduardo Agdepa Dizon from Hirona Tarlac in the central northern part of the island of Luzon. My mom is Bicolano, my dad is Kapampangan and Ilokano, and they came here in the 80s. And you know, I'm constantly learning
Mm,
about their story. And every time I come home, I feel like I get to meet a new part of them, or I get to unravel a new thread that maybe I've heard before, but never like, fully integrated. And my dad came because of his family, essentially, and then my mom essentially came because of my dad. So neither
they
of
were together
them.
in the Philippines.
Yeah, they met in Manila. They were working in Manila. And then my dad immigrated here. And for 2 years, they were apart until my
Mm,
until my mom was finally petitioned here.
mm.
And, just like on a human level, I'm like, oh, how did you do that? And, I'm like, codependency, how did you do that?
Right.
My mom, like, talks about like when they would write letters to each other. And
Sweet.
but like, mail like came once a week or once every 2 weeks, and I'm just like, oh my, it's just, I can't even put myself in that position. I'm like,
Yeah.
um, but I don't know, migration is such a interesting phenomenon to me
Mm,
because I think it is the natural way
yeah.
of the world, and for certain cultures more than others, right?
Mhm.
Like there are certain cultures, certain tribes that are nomadic, and that is their way, is to be of the diaspora. And then when I think of the Philippines specifically, I think of the the inherentness of the institutions and systems to literally like ship out our
Yeah.
people. Like our economy is based on Filipinos working elsewhere and leaving the country. That's what the Philippines really is known for, is having caretakers, nurses, domestic worker, laborers, like in
Mhm.
other countries, sending money back to the Philippines, and maybe I think to some extent having a better opportunity economically elsewhere. But I just watched a Filipino film that shed some light on the overseas workers in Hong Kong, and I'm like,
Mm.
man, it's hard to not think about the plight of the Filipino people. I
Mm.
think as a Filipinx American in America, where still seen as a land of milk and honey. Um, and anyway, all to say, my parents have come a long way, and I'm like, can they hear me?
Oh,
Can they hear me
they
in
can
this
feel
house?
you right now.
They have come a long way, and that's because that's really rooted in some unconditional love, and that's
Mm.
why I always have to big ups my parents, because I think in if I was born into a different household, I think it would have been different.
Mm.
Like, I mean, like I had said to you before or earlier in our conversation, like I couldn't get a BFA, I couldn't major in dance, I couldn't make that my main course.
Yeah.
It could never be the main um, thing on the menu. It was always on the side. I was always performing and dancing on the side. It was always like an extracurricular activity that everyone loved me for and knew me for, but it could never be the thing that I pursued professionally.
Yeah.
And then when I saw, other people, specifically, very specifically, when I saw Black women, when I was in a room of mostly Black women who were doing it, who
Mm.
were pursuing the arts professionally on different levels, some performing artists, some directors, some like in education. That was at the Urban Bush Women Summer Leadership Institute. That's when I saw a different way,
Yeah.
and I think like when you don't see the different way, it's really hard to imagine it, right? Just in general. So growing up in an immigrant household where most of most of your peers or like those who, your parents' friends who are older than you, they're pursuing nursing,
Yeah.
wanting to be doctors and engineers, and you're kind of just like, you're like, there's something inside you that you're like, I know that I know I can do it. I just don't know how. Like it hasn't been done, or it hasn't been done in the way that I'm supposed to do it. And I
Mm.
think that's something I learned really early on, was that me deciding, like firmly that I was going to pursue my artistry professionally,
Yeah.
I knew that I would have to create my own way.
Yeah.
There just wouldn't be, especially because I knew I wanted to focus on social justice, and I
Yeah.
actually did not want to, feed into the commercial, like glitz and glam life as I thought I wanted to as a child.
Mm.
Um, that's why I had moved up to the Bay and all these things. But, to kind of go back to what you said around this, we call there's a phrase in Filipino culture / psychology, called utang ng loob.
Okay.
Utang means something you owe. Like your utang to me could be like money that I lent you, right?
Okay.
And then loob, Loob, is like it, it's just your inner self.
Okay.
That's the only way I can describe that. And so utang ng loob, when I like when I feel it, when I feel that word in my body, it's like this really deep, deep debt that is like
Mm.
inside of you. Yeah. And so that's actually something that a lot of immigrant families, households, especially those who have moved away from the Philippines, and then of course my generation and further who are born here,
Yeah.
it's kind of this like, it's this like inherent tie that we have to our families, and what you had described earlier around, like the work of your ancestors to like bring you here, to get you here,
Yeah.
and then now because they did that, it's your responsibility to bring it full circle in a sense. And
Yeah.
I think there's you know I have I personally have shifted, I think, many times, or maybe even like danced around it in many, you know, um, circumstances to understand it in a way that makes sense to me,
Yeah.
right? Because now that I am going back to academia, I am, thinking about the way in which I do have the privilege and opportunity to have this formalized education and to continue to like expand my intellectual rigor and this and that, and how that act of me pursuing that is part of that cycle,
Yeah.
is that I actually can do it, so I'm gonna do it,
Sure.
rather than maybe in the past where I was like, but I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to be a part of that system or institution. So, and so I think there is, like if we are to kind of unpack it further, I think there is goodness in it, like inherently. But
Mm.
I think the way that kind of the general or mainstream, however you want to call it, like um, Filipino immigrant household has like turned it into, it's more like, yeah, it's more, it's it becomes to one's detriment, you know, because then the utang ng loob simply means is simply looking at your markers of success financially
Mm.
and socioeconomically, and so when we're stuck in that cycle of what that, you know, debt is,
Yeah.
that it's all about financial and status, and you know, it's why there's a lot of Filipinos who voted for Trump, right? Like
Yeah.
those are those people who are stuck in this like very um I would say a very like bubble mentality of what the American dream is,
Hmm.
right? But but is not the American dream about having choice, and is it not about like, you know, living a fulfilled life?
Yeah.
And so I think in that respect, like there is a way in which, you know, me pursuing an MFA is all about, you know, the American dream,
Yeah.
and whether I want to own that or not, right? It's that actually like, yeah, we've reached a point, like, you know, me and my family where like, or maybe just maybe me specifically, or like I am now like, you know, choosing to be um or choosing to shift my markers of success, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas,
Yep. Yep.
um, yeah, where like I was just talking to my sister the other day about, you know, we were talking about my last project, Hinga, and it's like a 15-minute experimental performance ritual short film, and it's really the most profound work that I have made to this day, you know, and that's like yay, right? Yay, of course, like you want to every latest work, you know, in this capitalist society needs to be the better than the last,
Yep.
but to really feel that for myself, like, yeah, this really is um kind of, yeah, as someone said, like a pinnacle of my career as an artist. uh, you know, my sister was talking about just like, I think this has been coming up more, is just me getting affirmations around my ability to like really, I kind of feel like I'm a conductor.
Hmm. Yep.
And I really am able to identify like who is the right person, and you know, for the vision and the many parts, and I really think about, whether actively or subconsciously, like how people will work together.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, I think that's essentially why I'm in the place where I am as a director. But really for me, I was telling her like, you know, the marker of success for me has never been like how many people attend the performance or how much money we make, though it has to be now that I'm like getting,
Yeah.
you know, better at my business practices. But it's always been um, the relationships,
Hmm.
as you said earlier. It's always been, how does the cast and crew actually mesh, and do they feel that like, you know, spark as a collective when we culminate this process together. That's always been my marker of success, is if I put everyone in their rightful place, if that
Hmm.
makes sense.
Yeah.
um and so I'll to say that, you know, my 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 mom was the one to say, you know, when I told her that I wanted to be, I was like, whoa, big life revelation here, you know, 20 July, August 2014, came back from like maybe day 4 of the institute, went to my dorm, and I was like, I'm gonna be an artist. You know, it was just like, it was the ultimate. And I'll never forget the phone call with her where it was hard. It was just not like at all what I expected, you know. And she had said the words, I worked too hard for you to sleep on someone else's couch. And I was
Mm.
like, oh, shit,
Damn.
you know? And I just, I'm sure I sat there for a while, maybe crying, this and that. But
I
it
could imagine
really,
there might have been years.
but it really fueled the fire under my ass, which I think is, I mean, it's kind of like a blessing in disguise, I think, about being a child of immigrants. Is like, I mean, I think if you like, have a good head on you, it's like, you can't do things for nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, you know, yeah, I mean, sure, when folks like are kind of like in awe of like the work I do, or just like that I'm still doing it even, I really I credit it to that, to my mother's, like, just her entrepreneurial spirit, and
Yeah.
her like really, um she's really purposeful, you
Sure.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I like that you talk about this journey as like transfer, but you're reframing, right? You're reframing these things, and that's important.
I have to. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like you're, your mom said, I work too hard for you to sleep on somebody's couch, and I think that's probably, that's not necessarily word for word, but the theme there is like, I want you to have more. I didn't come here for you to have less. I've went through my own struggle for you not to struggle.
Exactly.
And that's also, I think, something that was, I mean, we'll never be able to understand it because we are not our parents, right? And we didn't have their experiences. But that's part of the dream. That is part of the dream that was sold. Oh,
Yeah.
when you come here, you will not, your children will not have to have suffer like you. Well, yeah, they weren't thinking. I'm like, the same way you and I will never be able to understand what our parents went through is the same way that our parents will never be understand the world that
Yeah.
we live in.
Yeah.
The same way when I look at high school students, I wouldn't trade. When I hear when I hear older folks talk about children, kids, and I'm like, you have no idea, you
Mm.
have zero clue.
Mm.
You have zero clue what it's like to be a teenager right now.
Mhm. Mhm.
You have
Mhm.
the societal pressures early, the
Mhm.
confusion, the chaos. Who should I be? What should I be?
Confusion.
Like,
Uh,
just wait. Let's not even talk. I mean, uh, there's a hybrid of a physical and virtual world that
mhm.
they're trying to navigate
Yeah.
children, as
Mm.
children. Like, there's
Yeah.
this expectation. I hear there's this expectation that kids are just supposed to know everything. I'm like, yo, you're essentially a kid until you. Some of us are still children at fucking damn near 40 years old.
Oh, all day. Yeah.
Like, we're chill.
Yeah.
Like, we want to be nurtured. Like, in my work with uh community college students, and hopefully working with, and in college as well, and in university systems, we're children. We are children, and we still need so much nurturing, so much. Now, it doesn't necessarily need to come from parents, but we still need to be but it would, still need
We
to be
have to reparent ourselves.
right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but when I think about this reframing, right, it's the same. Yeah, I've also tried to practice more and more gratitude and really tap into the story and the experiences of my parents and how that's transferred into my pursuit of social work,
Mm.
right? I mean, essentially, my mom was a social worker. She worked for the DA's office and the Child Support Bureau for 30 something years. I'm like, dude, you can't. I mean,
Mm.
like, thank you, right? Like, I feel like you've handed it off whether you know it or not, but that
Mm.
sense of compassion,
Mhm.
that, yeah, I recognize that's where I get it from.
Mm.
I'm like, oh, that sense of compassion, that, being kind and selfless and trying to figure out how to meet people where they're at, not
Mm-hmm.
impose your own expectations. Right. And you talk about that. You talked about, oh, what was it? Damn, you said something about love between your parents. What was the
Oh,
word?
unconditional.
Unconditional.
Unconditional love,
Unconditional.
yes.
And I've, you know, I've seen that, and it's funny. I was thinking about my own parents about that. I'm like, at some point they had it, and then obviously whatever
Sure.
that
Yep.
shit went away. But my father, um, fucking work ethic and entrepreneurial and um, doesn't like to hear no, curious. I've taken those things. I've left some things behind, right? As we should do, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's reframing, right? Like he asked me the other day, and I took offense to it at first, and then I had to realize I was like, why am I taking offense to?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you think you'll be able to? Do you think you'll be able to support yourself with this? And in my head, I'm like, you don't know anything about. We haven't had any deep conversation about the work that I'm doing.
Mm.
It's also difficult. I recognize that I internalize that because I'm my curiosity is at an all-time high. My like I'm up at 11 Christmas Day. I'm up at midnight reading, researching. Not because it's like, oh, work, work, work. It's like, this is what I want to do. This is fulfilling me, right?
Mm.
So to have that and to just know, like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. This,
Mm-hmm.
nothing can stop me in terms of like seeking out knowledge,
Mm.
right? So I recognize that I'm in a great place, and I love what I'm doing. Kind of going back to that nurturing as a parent. You don't ever want to hear your parent kind of like second guess you. You don't want your parent to second guess you. You're like, dude, get on board. What the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Team.
Come on, the squad.
Yes, squad. Yep,
Let's
yep,
go
yep, yep.
squad.
Let's go. Yep.
So to hear that kind of conversation, but to hear that from him, I was like, I don't really care for that much. I really don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that.
Mm.
It was more so. I think it was more so me.
Mm.
How can I expect him to understand where I am, right? And that's not his. I don't think that's his job necessarily, or whatever, right? But as parents, that's really they're coming from a good place. I think 90%
Yeah.
of people come from a
Yeah.
good place. There's like, I want you to. 90% of people are trying to come from a good place.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Definitely.
They really do, regardless of what they say or how it comes
Mm-hmm.
off. But yeah, when I just think about that, like pursuing it's one thing to say like, yeah, pursue what you want to do. It's another thing to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, when hearing you like this is perfect, and this is something that like I love to hear when people are actually pursuing it. It's not like, oh, I'm going to, which is part of the process. But it takes a lot, and I think we don't talk about that enough, right? Like, excuse me, for so many people are like just we're bombarded with other people's expectations.
Mm.
And it's hard. It's hard to distinguish like how you feel. I mean, that's one of the things that's happened to me in this
Mm.
master's program that I know it's my duty to try to change.
Mm-hmm.
I lost my sense of feeling. I wasn't in tune with what's going on. Fucking drinking coffee after coffee. Oh, why am I like sitting in a chair and I have to do one of these numbers because everything's out of whack, right? Is this learning? This can't be learning. Is this the part? Does it have to
Mm.
be like this?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't,
Yep.
right? Like, um, this, yeah, like I just, I hope that more and more people, I just hope more and more people, and I think it's happening, are creating. They're creating, period. They're not falling in line,
Mm.
not being, they're not like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. Say, no, create something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Be an innovator.
Mm-hmm.
Anything's, I mean, there's a there was a, fucking, was it, there's a space shuttle that took off and it landed on its own. You can, what are the, like, if I was growing up right now, I'd be like, dude, what are the possibilities? I'm talking to you, like, this is crazy for me to think about. I have done a majority of my podcast over Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not that old, but I can't, 15 years ago, would I have been ever think like, you know what? It's going to be a possibility for me
And
to have a podcast,
yeah,
right? Like, there's so many possibilities. There's so much room for creativity, creation, innovation.
truly.
Um, yeah, I went on a
And
rant.
no, and I'm with you, and I think I think part of that hope is rooted in like being willing to leave things behind.
Family included.
It's true. No, it's very true.
No, I
And
mean, that's
traditions and values and that are outdated, that just no longer serve us. And I think I think what I've like grown how I've grown in my understanding and compassion is like, yeah, some things are just gonna have to be simultaneous.
mm,
Like, as maybe you and I grow into new skins and new modalities and new ways of thinking and being, it doesn't necessarily mean we totally have to shun out, like, that of our parents or families.
no,
But there's going to have to be a learning to coexist,
sure.
and a learning to just maintain simultaneously in the ways that we need to get to the next. That I think about, like, things that the previous generation hold that just won't be in the next generations to come, because that's just the natural way of evolution.
Yeah.
And as you know, like, what is it, Gen Z, who are they? Whatever generation they
Yeah.
are, they're amazing.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
They blow my mind. I
Yeah.
I don't understand them, but I do. There's a part of me that's like, oh, I get it. Yeah, we're whack. You
Yeah.
do that. You do the new thing that
Mhm.
is gonna be better for our world and our humanity.
Yeah.
Um,
Man, you
and
talk
I
about
think
accepting. Oof. They're so much more accepting. Like, they're accepting. They're like, I mean, I can't even imagine. Like, they're literally so much more tolerant of people's differences.
mm, more tolerant about people's differences, but also more about their uniqueness.
Mm-hmm.
More about it, like, yeah, it's amazing. I mean, and I think, like, I like to think that, like, my generation, like, opened up that pathway for them, but that they went and took
Okay.
it full, ran away with it. And I'm like, yeah, do it. Because I forgot who I was talking to about this, but I think, you know, at least some of my peers in my inner circle, like, something that we've accepted is like, well, we're not gonna end the institutions today. So, like, there needs to be that simultaneity of working within and working towards being without
Yeah.
them. And I think, again, that's exactly why, timing wise, like, I am going back into the institution, is because I'm like,
Yep.
still some more work to do inside of there
All the work.
in my lifetime. Okay, fine.
Yep.
So,
Uh, I've come to terms with the 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 commitment that I've signed on to. I've come to terms with that this is early. This is very early. This is like my rookie season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, oh
Yeah.
damn, this just started. Oh,
Woohoo.
oh, okay, all right, shit. But I'd put in work. No, you haven't put in any work yet. You just started. You just get
But
warmed
you
up.
have.
I
You're doing
have.
better.
I am doing. I thank you. And I also recognize that if I'm fortunate, that
It's
there's a
lifelong.
this is a lifelong journey.
That's right. It's lifelong.
Yeah, this
And
is
it makes it all the more important to take breaks
right.
and to go to the Caribbean and all of that.
Yeah,
But this is lifelong.
it is. It
You're
really is.
gonna you're gonna have white hair. I'm gonna have a long white hair,
Right.
and we're gonna be talking about the next generation
The next generation. Can you
and
believe?
how we don't understand.
Oh, who knows? Maybe
Yeah.
we'll be on a different planet by then when we have like.
Yeah, maybe.
If you if there if well actually not if what would it take? What would it take for you to dip out?
To another planet?
Hmm?
Oh, well, I feel like it would have to be like a crusade, like we're all going.
We're all headed it right.
Yeah, like everybody's going.
Sure.
I would not be the first. No,
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 I wouldn't be in the first million. I'm
no.
waiting. I'm waiting for the first million to get
It's
out
ki- it's kind of like how I feel with this vaccine. I'm like, oh, I'll be the last in line. I'm okay. I understand we're gonna get it and this and that, but I don't have to be the first. It's
No,
okay.
no, not at all.
Right.
Oh my god. So MF, when will you know when you're like,
That is such so interesting. I honestly like with this first school, I'm kind of like nerve wracked because I'm like, oh, I think I'm gonna find out like sooner than later if it
oh yeah,
moves on the 15th and I
yeah,
don't know,
next 2 months.
February, like
Yep,
March,
yep.
February, March. But the last application's not due till February, so yeah, I think there'll be like a March, April, spring
Mm,
thing going on. Um, but it's interesting, like I mean, you must know because you're preparing to move to Jamaica, but I feel like yeah, I'm not I don't want to leave the Bay. That's
mm,
clear to me. There's um I think for a while I felt very unfinished, that my work was not yet done
mm,
and now I feel like okay, well actually I think there'll always be a tie to the Bay wherever
yeah,
I go to school, whether it means coming back or like kind of having a hand there, a hand here.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's just weird to me to think that like there's a possibility that I'll be moving.
yeah.
It's just yeah, it'll be bittersweet. I think it'll be bittersweet.
Yeah, I'm trying to pick up on your vibe. I'm trying to pick up on like
It'll just be because I really cultivated my whole artist career in San Francisco,
mm-hmm.
and I love San Francisco. And if my dream is to buy a house one day, do I really see myself in San Francisco?
When you
It's
said that,
all
I was like,
that.
North Carolina might be a little bit.
No.
I was like, North Carolina might be.
See, no. Yeah,
Then you're
but
gonna have to
but
go.
see the other part though is like I can't have a house where there are no brown people in my neighborhood. That's just not it's not gonna happen.
Well, it's looking good. It's looking good. I'm up here. Like I said, I'm up here. I'm up here in Roanoke, Virginia, and I am amazed at
Mm.
how many multi-ethnic children
Mm.
I am seeing.
Oh.
On paper or in my head, at one point, I would think that I'm like I'm up in the mountains. It's probably gonna be very black and white, but I'm just looking, I'm like, oh, look at
Yay.
you, whatever the hell,
Nice.
and I think that's important.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing, and I'm, it's, it's statistically impossible for us not to be brown, red, and any other color. Like you're really gonna have to try. Like I'm just saying, like you're gonna have to try, right? Majority of us have pigment in our skin. Like not majority of us in the United States, majority of us in the world, right?
Oh, that
Like,
part.
and I think the more what's promising to me is the more that happens, and I'm seeing it happen. The more we can get past the 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 race conversation, and we can finally get to what I think is the root in economic disparity. Like race is going to be there, right? I think race has been the distraction. It's been a way of dividing people. What we're really trying to get down to, race is a way to divide and categorize,
Definitely.
and an,
Create power structures.
an easy way to decide who gets what resource.
Yeah.
And I think when we start mixing up like we're doing, like when I see those beautiful mixes of Filipinos and blacks, and I see those mixes of white and black and white and Chinese, whatever, yeah, Mick, go get up in there. Make it happen. It's beautiful. Then we can start having the real conversation, because we can get past like, well, I was talking to my professor, who is also turning into a real friend. I'm gonna go on family. I'm gonna go family. We've surpassed friends.
Beautiful.
We clicked. We're like, oh, we're like family.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's cool. She is black and white, very fair skin, married to a white guy. Looking at her children, two of them are twins, and they have blonde hair and blue eyes. They don't look like their mother is anywhere. No one would ever think that their mother is black.
Yeah.
Same with her son. Now her new baby resembles her already. You see it. You're like, oh, you got dark hair. Yeah, there's something there. Okay. But she was explaining to me, she's like, it's going to be, what's been tough for her. But, she's had those weird, kind of the weird looks. She's had the weird conversation. I'm like, oh, like, why are you talking to them like that? Are those your children? Like, but those are real. Those are real things.
Of course.
We approach situations.
Yeah.
We're visual. We're visual people.
Visual.
Right. So when you don't see something that doesn't add up,
Yeah.
right? Then you're like, wait, what?
Yeah. Assumptions.
Assumption.
All day.
But she was so like, she reignited my hope, because she said, one day somebody's gonna say something really bad about black people, and her kids are gonna be like, excuse me, my mother's black, because and they're not gonna know, right? Because now we're starting to get to that point. We're like, well, I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
Like, I don't know who knows? You know what I'm saying? Like, who knows?
Yeah.
Not even who knows. Why is it important? I think you should be proud of culture and understand your roots. I think that's really important. But letting that solely define you is a totally different story.
Right.
Totally different story. So like the more, I'm very hopeful that like we're moving in a great direction despite what we're fed. So I do think that there's a lot of good people like yourself that are doing great work and that are pursuing their passions, not other people's. and they're being really honest. And right, this is a great time. You know what I'm happy about, and I'm indebted to people who have lost their lives. I'm indebted to people who have paved the way. Um, People that have lost their lives due to racial violence and um, gender-based violence and sexuality, and there's no more hiding. Right, it's out in the
Yes.
open now. You
Mm-hmm.
can't. Now what's rough is we don't know what that's going to do to us in terms of witnessing these type of traumas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's new. We don't being able to pick up the phone and watch somebody being murdered like that's new. And I don't know what that I'm not sure what that's going to do long term.
Mm-hmm.
Like long term exposure to vicarious trauma.
Yeah, yeah,
We
you're
got to be
right.
careful about that.
Yeah, definitely.
On the other hand, there's no hiding. Like,
Yep,
oh, that's happening. Like, what do you mean? Is it? It's
yep,
right in front of you.
yep. I
It's,
mean,
so there's no more. Oh, that's not real. But,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
The leader of the country. There's no hiding that, right? Like, good. In a sense. There's people who, and this is always going to be the case. There are people who have really suffered during this time, during his presidency.
yep,
Really suffered.
yep.
In the long term, this was a major fucking wake up call. And there's a lot of growth that's going to happen. Because there were some people that may have been, kind of like in their bubble,
Yeah,
choosing to be in the bubble, choosing to be in the dark.
yeah.
And they were like,
Or
yo,
not.
I don't think I want to be in my bubble anymore. Because what's happening right now, yeah, I don't like this. This has gone too far.
Yeah, people had to choose a side.
Yeah.
There's no neutrality. There never was, really,
No.
but
Oh, it's out in the open. Oh, you don't think that this shit is crazy? You don't think that wait, you don't think there's man, you don't think there's racism?
you don't think there's racism? Here is an Instagram slide,
Boom.
bud. 10, break it down for you. Yeah, and I got a piece in like maybe 3:30 fam, if that's cool.
I have no
Um,
idea what time it is. I'm not even subscribing to time anymore.
maybe this could be the closing, wherever it leads. But
Sure.
um,
Until next
as
time.
exactly as you know, we have entered the age of Aquarius. The
There we
great
go. Bring us back.
conjunction happened on the winter solstice on the 21st, and we witnessed Jupiter and Saturn conjunct in Aquarius. I don't know if you looked up at the sky, but there was like this, the brightest light, and this is like an event that only is happening once in our lifetime,
Mm,
essentially. um all to say, the shift from Capricorn to Aquarius really puts us in these, like, we just witnessed, the fall of structures. Like,
mm,
Capricorn is all about structure
mm,
and earth and material.
mm,
And now we're in Aquarius, which is air, which is intellect and innovation.
mm,
And this, I'm always reminded that the Zoom life is Aquarius, is the energy of Aquarius. And so the way in which, like, all of our communication has, hopped onto the online, that's very Aquarius. And so I just, like, I have this hope that in this next era, like, that technology is gonna, like, serve us, that
yep.
technology is finally gonna, like, do the thing that we needed to do as a human race to, like, save the human race,
Mm-hmm.
and not the whole, like, robots turning against us. Hopefully not that. But yeah, there is great hope, I think, coming into this new year, and not even because it's a shift in the Gregorian calendar, but specifically because we are now in the age of Aquarius. And I don't know how you feel. I feel like I'm trying to like be in the discernment around like what chapters like are closing, and like to be really like cognizant about it, because those are gonna close. And you know, it speaks to what we said earlier about like being willing to leave things behind so that
Yeah.
we can get to what we need to get to.
Mm. Well, this has been, I mean, again, another benefit to slowing down is reflecting on what's working and what's not working. Yeah, we can't overstate it enough. What relationships are really good? Not even really good. What relationships are support your exploration?
Mm.
Who is, yeah. I mean, I think, you and I are people who probably ask ourselves quite often, like, who are you? Who are you? What are you doing? And what do you got going on? What do you do? What are you doing? Um, and when you do that type of reflection, and I'm grateful for that ability to do that, right? Because there's a lot of people right now, a lot of people who don't have that freedom.
Yeah.
And I have to remember that even when I'm having a rough one. Not to say that I base my life based off on other people's circumstances, but I damn sure keep it in mind, right? Just the having the actual space, right? Like I went and walked up and cleared my head, and I was able to have a gratitude practice, and I was able to have some inner dialogue. And there's things that I'm really just I'm grateful that I'm able to identify the path that I'm on right now, and what my expectations are for people around me, who's bringing value, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean everyone has to be a cheerleader. Who's challenging me? That's another part. That's something that I'm looking for. I told you I love challenges. Who's challenging me?
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like
Put
everybody
the word
can't be on
in there.
board, right? Everybody
Yeah.
can't be on board with what Joseph's dreams are. You know what I'm saying? Or they could be, but they're like, hey, did you think about this?
Oh, yeah, yeah. We need that. We do need that.
Right. And that's
Yeah.
that's that those are things that like those are things that identifying the relationships that you can I think you can fall short, and when someone disagrees with you or doesn't see your vision, right, that you're like, oh, they're not of value. Like, oh,
Mm.
they actually could very well be
Mm.
major value.
Mm.
You know, again, with good intent, I think most 90% of people mean well.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Good intentions.
Good intentions might not come across,
Mm.
might never come across that way,
Right.
but
It's different.
yeah, just this reflection of relationships and what's important. I mean, all the full transparency. I have had uh, one of the more kind of gratifying feelings. I've had just about every one of my serious girlfriends call me uh, call me during,
Oh, sis.
and it's been interesting. And I haven't had, all my relationships have not ended extremely well,
Mm.
but it's been interesting to get these phone calls,
Mm-hmm.
and not as like, oh yeah, you want to
Right,
talk.
right, right.
There must be something, you know what I mean? I'm just like, damn, we can come to like these moments of like, yeah, we can talk. You've identified, that makes me feel good that you've identified me as a person that you would want to talk to during this chaotic time.
Word up, word up.
That I can provide that trustworthy relationship, right? And regardless of how things ended or like the complexity of relationship, at least I was like, if I can do that, I'm ecstatic that I can do that for you. Like, because we all need that shit. We all need people that
Yeah,
we can come back to.
compliments, totally.
Cool. You
Mm,
like a standing rock. You seem like a standing. You're not great. Okay, you solid. Solid.
mm-hmm,
So that's
mm-hmm,
been one of the weird things. Yeah, like that's been a really cool feeling to have. But again, not about like stroking the ego. Not about,
right.
oh yeah, calling me. She's like, oh no, I'm taking that as you still feel like you feel comfortable,
Mm.
and that's half of my job. Gonna surpass 75% of my job is making people feel comfortable. So you
Like,
feel comfortable enough to talk about what you need.
mm, this kind of answers a question that I had earlier of whether you were going to Jamaica by yourself or not.
Oh, you thought I was going? Yeah, I'm going
Oh,
by
I
myself.
wasn't sure. I just
Oh,
wasn't sure.
yeah, I'm going by myself. I'm going by myself. I don't know if this would be a trip I would want to bring someone on. I'm still finishing school. This isn't vacation. This isn't like I'm going and we're just going to hang out. Like, no, I'm still going to have a pretty
Yeah,
structured life.
yeah,
I'm gonna get up in the morning. I'm going to go swim,
yeah.
learn how to surf.
Yes. Yeah.
Then I'm going to come back, drink some coffee, look out and appreciate this beautiful, beautiful globe. Um, and then I'm gonna read and I'm gonna write and I'm gonna be in class and then I'm gonna read and then I'm gonna write and then I hope to get out and meet some people. You know, I hope to meet some wonderful people and um
You
just,
will.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's
You
gonna.
will. You gotta go out dancing. You
Oh man,
gotta.
just I'm the I I'm gonna go out there. I want to listen. That's really one of the things that I want. I want to listen. I love listening, right? Which is
Mm,
why DJing just called.
mm,
I was like, oh, I love listen. Let me listen. I don't want to
mm,
say anything right now.
mm.
Obviously, I have no problems talking. Right, talking is not a hard thing for me.
But the listening is like where we need to be at.
Yeah.
You're right on there. Like one of the things my mentor said to me was one, like slowing down is where more will get done. Ooh,
Mm.
when she said that, I was like, oh shit, I'm getting a lot done.
Yeah.
Getting a lot done right now. And then the other thing she had said was, when a thought like passes you
Oh
by
yeah,
and you're
that's
like,
how you
wait a
look.
minute,
Yeah.
wait a minute,
No. Come on.
wait a minute. Um, ah, mm-hmm, mm. In the practice of deep listening and
Yeah.
especially like listening to, the unseen. Ooh, she was like, you can't hear half of what they're saying to you. I was like, dang,
Damn,
dang. All this practice on it, I still can't hear half
I
of
still
what they're
can't hear it.
saying. But how real is that? I mean, just yesterday I'm reading No Mud, No Lotus.
Okay.
You know that book?
Nope.
Tit Tit Nhat Han. I feel like I always butcher his name, but
Okay.
um anyway, one of the Buddhist teachers in life. My partner like really follows his teachings, and um, there was a part in it that said that was just talking about your thoughts and your mental chatter, and the line said, "Most thinking is unproductive," and I was like, "Dang, just when those like one short sentence liners that you're like, ugh." And I know that's real because I'm someone who overthinks. I'm someone who finds herself like thinking about 10 million things in like 30 seconds.
Sure.
And really my like with therapy and just like being really committed to my mental health, especially this year, I've really like I feel like I'm definitely like deepening in my practice of observing my thoughts rather than
Mm.
feeding into them.
Yep. Their
But
thoughts.
but dang, just sometimes I'm really like, what is going on in there?
Oh yeah.
What? And if I'm thinking about all these random things that don't connect to, I just think about everyone else in the world, and I'm like, man.
Oh, it's all happening at the same. Yeah. Mm, yeah. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, so all to say like that connection of the thinking and the listening and
mm,
how overthinking can really, yeah, deter us from the deep listening.
sure. Hmm. You know what's funny? I came in with all the questions, and I failed to recognize that we're gonna just have our normal conversation. Because I come in to some podcast, especially with people who I don't know as well,
Mm.
with kind of an idea of where I want to go. There isn't so much structure. I do like the dialogue to be free flowing.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, I came in like, yeah, I want to talk about, maybe more indigenous practices and the approach of
Yeah.
indigenous um, philosophy into our approaches in the world. But then as soon as we started talking, I was like, oh no, we're about to just chop it up. I tried. I was like, nah, we're just gonna chop. We're good. We're gonna do what we normally do. And we're just gonna see where the conversation goes. I knew I wanted to talk about school. Like school was,
Ah,
yeah, I knew I wanted to talk about school because I was so happy to hear that. So happy to hear that flame was sparked. Um, and especially kind of as I went back and thought about your experience in undergrad, I was like, yeah, okay, damn right, yeah, she's back. She's back.
I deeply appreciate that.
Yeah.
It means a lot.
So we're gonna conclude with this question that I'm doing much better asking that everyone that I talk to. If you could reflect, doesn't matter how long back, could be yesterday, could be a week, could be a year, could be when you establish consciousness,
Mm.
which is still up for debate. I listened to a pretty cool conversation at the 2017 psychedelic conference where this guy made a point that there is prenatal consciousness
Mm.
and that
I'm into
you,
that.
your experience, um, whether it be the physical experience where you start, let's say there was a very restrictive womb and you felt pressure in your arm, well, your brain recognized it. There was a response, right? Not necessarily when you're in the room, but like later on he was saying that, well, what if that physical response expressed itself with you having headaches later on in life?
Mm.
I was like, damn, wait, what? So I
Hmm.
went again. I was like, oh, wait, so you could experience something. It doesn't need to necessarily happen then, but you're aware. If you were aware of it in terms of your body, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole.
Okay.
But I'm saying either way. But the
It's
question
interesting.
was,
I
yeah,
never thought about that.
neither neither did I. Neither did I. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of really. There was like four phase. He was like, there's the four matrix. There's four matrix of prenatal consciousness. Fascinating stuff. Fascinating stuff. But either way,
Yeah.
the question: what's something that you love or that you're in love with right now?
Something, not someone, right?
Oh, I didn't. It could be whatever you want.
Oh man. Um, I feel. Oh man. I feel like I can only talk about my partner. I feel like I like would not want. I won't. Don't want to. I'm like trying to find something else, but it just keeps coming back to that.
I don't see what's the problem with. I don't understand.
I really try. I'd be like, it's another thing of my mental chatter. I'd be like, he's not here. Focus on something
No, whatever. That's
else.
funny because I asked that question to other people, and like I asked a question to one of the guests who is a licensed clinical social worker, and I asked him that question, and he was talking, and I could see he was like thinking, he's like, my wife, and I was like,
Aw.
good answer. And I have a
Aw.
feeling his wife was actually in the room or
Oh.
maybe walking around. And I was like, good answer. But I do feel like when I ask that to people who are in relationships and stuff, I'm like,
Yeah.
mm, this is probably gonna be. I'm not throwing you under the bus, right? Or like, I'm not gonna upset anybody.
And I think it's when you say in love, I think that's when it comes.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
And when you say something that I love, there's a lot of things. And then
mm,
when you say or in love, it's like, and I'm like, oh, ooh,
mm, mm,
deep. Okay.
mm-hmm.
Because there's a difference, right?
I don't know.
I mean, when I think about like things that I love, or even people that I love, like I can love them and not necessarily feel the the other side, like the reciprocal love back. And
Mm.
then when you say something, when you're in love, I think there's that like current of like this is how it looks like.
Okay.
um, of
Mm.
like a vibration that is going back and forth. Yeah, it's wild to me. So that yeah, my partner,
Partner. Okay.
yeah, ETIB DJ. Can't wait till y'all actually get to like talk about
Have a
music
lengthy
someday.
conversation
Yeah.
about the art. Yeah. Every time. That's the thing about it. I swear, for half the DJs that I've ever met, I always meet them while they're working. I'm like, all right, yeah, no, yep. And vice versa. Like when people come, yo, they're like, hey, yo, man, I'm a DJ. Like, yo, just letting you know. And I'm like, cool. I can't talk to you right now.
Yeah.
Shit. I do want to, I really do. Cause, we need that. Like when you come in contact with other artists and other dancers and stuff, you're like, oh yeah, I'd love to talk to you,
Yeah.
with your schedule. Shit. You know what? Actually, after I finish, I gotta go.
I'm like, let's not even talk about it. Because I'll be having all these like guilt conscious stuff about not being able to meet with people. And then I'm just like, it's just not available for me. And that's it. That's it. But, there's like, DJs. I'm like, y'all have a really, there's, I don't know, there's this uniqueness in the way you listen.
Mm-hmm.
Like listening is your craft.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I've always been deeply like intrigued and inspired by his listening in
Mm.
that way, and I mean the way y'all listen to music and the way y'all hear things that I wouldn't necessarily prioritize as a dancer,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the way y'all catalog stuff,
Oh
and
yeah.
I'm like, what? I just know the chorus.
Yeah. Yeah. It's,
Yeah.
it's an interesting one. I think it's I think in order to be a good DJ, and that and good is obviously like a really like umbrella. Yeah, I don't know. It's probably not the best word to use, but how do you evaluate a DJ? Um, a DJ has to be able to understand what they want to do, but prioritize like, but the people are the priority. It's about, you know, yes, there's some things you might want to, there's an energy that you want. Maybe there's something that maybe you see some, yeah, there's complexity to it, right? You're not talking to people, but you're communicating.
Oh yeah.
You're
Yeah.
picking up on people's vibes. There's something you see that like you're like, oh, that fell. Yep. Oh, got it. There
Yeah.
it is. Okay, cool. How do I shift this real quick? Okay, cool.
Yep.
Transferring that energy into body and into machine.
Yeah.
It's strange. I'm glad you said that you appreciate it though. Okay.
Well, it wasn't until like, being with a DJ that I realized that, turntablism is a musical instrument in
Oh
itself.
God, yeah.
But like, I mean, I'm someone who grew up in hip hop and grew up around a lot of DJs growing up, but I never saw it that way.
Yeah, no. It's definitely
And
an instrument. I did that was one of
yeah,
my questions. I was like, is this an instrument? I'm like, dude, it is totally.
it's its own instrument and it's complex.
It is. It's very yeah.
And there are, virtuosos in it as well who mastered the scratches, and yeah, it's a whole world
It
y'all are
is.
in.
It is.
So much respect. Yep.
Good listeners, though, I would say. Tend to
Yeah,
be good listeners.
totally.
Wow. Well, we're gonna have to do it again. This was
Yeah.
this was this was real fun. Um, well, I probably won't be able to do this for another what 4 months because I'm not bringing any of this stuff with me.
Is this your last podcast before the
Maybe
big move?
we'll see.
Wow.
I want to
Onward.
do some, but I also understand like, yeah, I might. This might be the last one.
We'll see.
And if it
Honored.
is, well, shit, I'm okay with it.
Honored. Honored.
I mean, for
Honored.
until the next one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope. Actually, I'm not even gonna do all that shit. We're gonna talk. Yeah, I don't even want to do that. I'm talking like this is it. I'm not gonna talk to you for a long time, but
No, we're
yeah, we'll
gonna come back.
definitely. Yeah, I'm gonna bug you about school and kind of
Yeah.
see where you're at in the next.
I might even try to socially distance see you before you physically leave the United States of America. Okay.
just, I'm just saying.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why this is so weird to say goodbye. Like,
Aw.
yeah.
How long
Uh,
are you gonna be there in Virginia?
till February.
So you're not going back?
Mm-mm.
So I missed it.
Yeah. Okay. It's not like that's it. It's not like it's all over.
Right. I'm
It's
gonna see
just,
you
right.
post Caribbean.
Yeah, post Caribbean.
Oh, wow. So you already gone.
Yeah, I'm.
Yeah, you are gone.
I'm in a weird. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, this is a weird, like that talking about
Wow.
home, like real strange,
Word.
very strange.
Yeah, you're gonna do some deepening there. I can feel that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Being by myself in a foreign land with cultural ties and island culture is far different.
Oh yeah.
Island like that, yeah, that could be a whole different. That could be a whole podcast on like my yeah, the island culture, just being isolated in a sense, isolation, but also being. Oh, what man, we're getting ready to go for another like 4. I'm getting ready to go. We're getting ready to go back in another 4 hours. Uh, either way, yeah. I don't know how to end it, so I'm just gonna say until next time.
Much love, my friend. Thank you for inviting me to
Yep.
this exchange.
Um, so I'll holler at you later.
Yeah, for
Peace.
sure.